Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Joining us today on the SportsWrap show is Virginia Union head coach, Dr. Alvin Parker. Coach Parker, how's it going today?
Everything going well, AD. How everything going down that way?
Outside the leaves falling off the tree and having to pull the hoodies out, everything is pretty good. But I'm pretty sure you guys have been in hoodies for a few weeks up there in the Virginia area.
It's definitely been fall.
All right. And as we're going, we're winding down a pretty successful season for you guys over there at the Panthers this particular year. Just go back and give us a quick recap of some of the successes that you had in this season as a coaching staff. You had your goals that you put on at the beginning of the year. Which of those goals have you really been the proudest of achieving this year?
Well, I guess the main goal is that we're going to have a few guys going to graduate in December. And we got pretty much all our seniors on target to graduate. So first and foremost, that's probably one of the better goals that I feel good about. In terms of some of the on the field goals, our goal was to win the division and to get a chance at the CIAA crown. So we not necessarily going to reach that, but our goals are also to reach the NCAA playoffs and things like that. So we still got that in mind. And we're sitting 7-2, and you always want to be in position for some form of postseason play and in late October, early November, and I think our kids have done that. So, I'm very proud of them for that.
And, yes, you guys are currently sitting number 8 in the Super Region 2. Your rival, Virginia State, is sitting at number 7 in Super Region 2. So, in essence, the upcoming game this weekend is going to be an elimination game for one of you guys when it comes to that Super Region poll, because we know that you must finish in the top 7 unless you're a division champ who can finish as low as 9, and then they will bump out number 7. But we're going to come back to that in just a moment. Let's talk about last week's victory over Elizabeth City State. And look, you guys kind of struggled. It was a back and forth game versus Elizabeth City State. You guys jumped out 6-0 in the first quarter before Elizabeth City was able to go in 13-6 at the half. So let's just take that first half right now, Coach. You're trailing 13-6 against Elizabeth City going into this is a must-win game for you. So what kind of adjustments are you making at the halftime that allowed you to come back out and do what you did in the second half of that game?
Just kind of concentrate on some of the things that we wanted to start with. We missed a couple big plays, in the first half on both sides of the ball, and we turned the ball over that resulted in a touchdown for those guys. So and that's something that we usually don't do. We're pretty good in the turnover and the penalty department usually. So not trying to shoot ourselves in the foot, but we did that in that game a little bit. But again, hats off to Elizabeth City. Them guys came ready to play, and the funny thing about it, those guys that were seniors were in the last class that when I was there. So that was the last group of guys that I had when I was at Elizabeth City. So kind of see those guys do some good things. It made you feel good in one sense that those guys get to finish their college careers out a certain way, and in the same sense, those guys over there and they're playing hard, and I knew they were going to. So no different than any other game we pretty much had this year, where we know the competition level is going to be high in this conference, especially on our side of the division. Everybody wants to kind of take their shots at each other, and that's a good thing, because again, those type of games get you ready for those playoff type things. And again, since we left after the loss at Bowie State, since we came back from that, every game has kind of been a must-win type of situation, and we understand that. The kids understand that, So, kind of being put in that position on Saturday, I don't think it was anything new for our kids. I'm glad to see that they kind of, finished it out the way we wanted them to and, got the W.
All right. And talk about that little bit of a mixed emotion. You know, you've got that group at Elizabeth City State that you brought in when you were coaching over there, and you got guys that are graduating over there, and then you've got this group of guys who, in essence, you inherited, and you're seeing them go out the door. So kind of talk about that mixed emotion, because I know there's any time you bring in a recruit, you have a tie to them, whether you finish their career out or whether they finish it out with you because you sat in the living room with mom or dad or whoever. So let's talk about that mixed emotion right there.
Well, within the last, maybe 5 years or so, I've been to 3 stops, Elizabeth City, St. Aug, and Virginia Union. So sprinkled between those 3 schools are some kids that, again, I had to sit in the living rooms and kind of sell their parents a vision on, what was going to be for their child, and all of those parents bought into that vision. And, so to kind of see them guys flourish and kind of seeing them guys having some success at this point in their careers, it's something that you can feel good about, because at the end of the day, it's a business of love, man. You got to love these kids, and you got to love what you're doing, and if you can do that, you can feel good about, doing things no matter where you are, but again, my task right now is to be the head coach at Virginia Union, and I think everybody understand that. So they know where my loyalties and everything else kind of lie. So my job is now to get these guys through, that I have now. So we have a bunch of good guys here. Guys are going to be successful in life. Not necessarily on the football field, but guys are going to be successful in life doing a bunch of other things. So to have my seniors kind of go out, and for their senior day this past weekend was something that was, a little bittersweet. I had 21 guys that went out there, and them guys have been special because they all bought into what I was selling when I came here. When I came here, all of those guys chose to stay, and sometimes when a new coach walks in the door, that generally doesn't happen. All of those guys bought into my vision, they bought into my plan, and they've been a pleasure to coach. So it's kind of hard to see those guys go too, because again, with this being my first head coaching job, I was kind of, put in a position with those guys for them to accept the leadership that I was, kind of bringing, and all of them did. So, like I said, bittersweet to kind of see them all over. But again, I'm just happy to see any form of a student athlete that I was been able to touch or been able to have a part in their life kind of, succeed and do some good things.
And talk about our student athletes, is getting back to the game. Second half of the game, you guys made some adjustments at halftime. You were able to tie the game up midway through the third quarter, then take the lead early in the fourth quarter. But this Elizabeth City State team fought back and was able to tie the game at 19 with, matter of fact, within less than a minute after you guys went up 13-19, the score would wind up 19-19 25 seconds later. So now you're coming down. We're in a tie ball game. Ultimately, you take the lead with 2 minutes to go, and then you hold on for the victory. Just kind of break down that second half and the big emotions and the different adjustments you had to make in the second half to hold on to that victory.
Well, they were doing some things offensively that we kind of knew they were going to do, but again, we were making a couple too many mistakes along the way, we thought, so first half wise. So I guess we kind of cleaned a lot of those up, in the second half, in terms of just being, properly aligned and doing certain things that, you have to do to win a ball game. At the end of the day, also when guys get in position, guys start to make some plays that they didn't necessarily make in the first half. So had a lot of guys kind of, make some huge plays. Has, interception, that was pretty huge for us. Had a couple sacks in that second half that was huge for us. And it's the kids that's just out there making the plays. That's really what happened in the second half. It's not a bunch of major adjustments that were made. We went into it with the same game plan that we kind of started off with. But in the second half, guys made a bunch of plays. So that was kind of the difference.
And a couple of those guys who made big plays for you, Tobias Taylor, 29 carries for 98 yards for your team. Khalid Morris completed 15 passes for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns during that game. And on the defensive side, Elijah Johnson led your team in tackles with with 10 tackles. So now you've got this momentum. You had a little bit of a struggle to get out of this game against Elizabeth City State. You know, some people call it a trap game, but you didn't get trapped. You handled your business, and of course Virginia State handled their business. So going into the game against Virginia State, what will you need to do offensively and defensively so that when we look up, when we go to bed Saturday night, Sunday morning, that you guys have the victory over a good Virginia State team and Coach Reggie Barlow over there?
Like you said, a good Virginia State team. You know, them guys are, you know, pretty good. You look at, you know, you can kind of look at the numbers and things. A lot of the numbers as such is kind of identical. You know, when you're looking at both teams in terms of what we do, I think we just have a different style of play than they might have. You know, but kind of like I said about the second half, you just got to make a bunch of plays. You know, whoever kind of makes the most plays and whoever, you know, plays pretty solid on defense, like both teams have proven they can do all year, is going to be, you know, the person that gives themselves to advantage to win. You know, and we got to do some of the things that we know we're good at. You know, we're not good when we're not doing those things. You know, can't turn the ball over, can't be penalized, those type of things like that. But it's one of those games, man, that, you know, I played in this game 4 times, and it's been kind of knocked down, you know, drag out every type of game, you know, no matter what the records are, no matter what was on the line, you know, and to add everything that's on the line for this game now, I feel like it's going to be even more, you know, so, you know, I think the guys understand that. They know it, you know, it's kind of impossible now for them not to kind of see what's going on in terms of, you know, what's at stake, but, you know,
yeah.
It's going to be a good game, you know. I think it's going to be something that's going to be good for the, you know, for the CIAA, for our conference, for our division, everything like that. That kind of comes with, you know, the territory that, you know, both of us kind of put ourselves in position to have. You know, anytime you can look up and, you know, you look in, you know, the regional rankings or anything like that as far as the NCAA goes, and you see 3 teams from one side of a division, you know, that's something that, you know, let you know how good the ball is that's being played there. You know, you take a look at it and say maybe, you know, one side of the division has, you know, a team that's sitting at the 3 spot and the 7 spot and the 8 spot, all within the region. You know, so like I say, that's something that, you know, you take your hat off to the coaches for doing a great job of having their teams in position, and something that you know, take your hat off to the conference as well, you know, for having guys that can be in positions like this to kind of, you know, bring more accolades and things to the conference in terms of getting multiple teams in the playoffs. So, you know, we embrace our position. You know, we really ready to kind of get out there on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's interesting about this game. Normally, this is a game that you say you throw the records out the window and just watch these 2 teams play each other. But obviously, the records are very important in this ball game because one team sits at number 7, one team sits at number 8. So somebody is playing for that potential spot in the Division II playoffs. Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about the big elephant in the room, the Division II playoffs. All right. First of all, when you look at the national race, the coaches polls, you guys are receiving votes in the coaches polls. You were in at 25 at one point in time, but unfortunately that loss that you had a couple of weeks ago knocked you out. But you're still receiving some votes. But in the regional rankings, Virginia State is one notch above you at number 7. You guys are sitting at number 8. So just kind of talk about the difference in the polling and the rankings right now. And obviously the regional rankings are the ones that matter more than anything.
You're correct about that. You know, and it kind of the biggest thing, you know, that I see in terms of the formula that's kind of put in place for the playoffs and things like that are, you know, they count Division II wins. So in terms of our wins right now, with us having 7 wins and 2 losses, we have 6 Division II wins because one of our wins came against a Division I opponent. So and it's a good thing and a bad thing because, you know, the NCAA doesn't penalize you for losing to a Division I, and they don't give you points for beating them. You know, so, it's essentially we lost the victory from playing the Division One. So that kind of didn't help us out necessarily in the formula. In terms of our strength of schedule, we kind of knew that was a question, something that we had a question mark about last year. So when we went out there and scheduled, we made sure we added some teams that were going to be, a little tougher scheduling, opponent-wise in the schedule. So we added Lenore Ryan. Right now, Lenore Ryan is sitting at number 1 in the region. So we lost to them guys, and we lost to the number 3 team in Bowie, who are both, ranked in the region, 1 and 3, and both ranked nationally, I believe, like 7 and 13. So those are our 2 losses. So in terms of our strength of schedule, our 2 losses are to 2 undefeated teams. So we feel like we did our due diligence in getting the people on the schedule that we need to get on the schedule. But in the same token, you got to win. Those are the things that kind of don't leave you sitting on the bubble going into the last couple of weeks of the season and things like that. You got to win some of those type of games. So, I got to find ways to, as the leader of this group, to put us in position that when we get against those type of teams that are the number 1 team in the region or number 3 team in the region, that we can kind of come out on the other side of some things. We necessarily didn't do that this year. So, so that's kind of why we sit down at that spot that we are, I think, now. The Hampton win was great. It was good for the school. It was good for everybody involved. It was good for our kids. But when it comes down to the breakdown in terms of the NCAA playoffs, we didn't get any points for it. So that was one thing.
Does that lead you to, in the future, to seek out games against a Hampton or other Division I opponents? You've got a Howard in the neighborhood. One of those teams. Do you still play those games, or do you seek to put another in-region Division II opponent in that slot in the future to help your strength of schedule?
It's a catch-22, man. To be honest, it's just you want to play some of those natural rivals. Virginia Union and Hampton were 2, more the original CIAA schools, and the proximity is good. You're able to kind of use it as a fundraising type of opportunity for your program. So it's benefits to it. But now when you come down to this point in the season and you look up at it, and it necessarily didn't help you in terms of the national picture. You start to question that a little bit, but it was something good for our school, something good for our program. I don't necessarily want to take that back, but again, you maybe look to do different things in different years, depending on what type of team you had. I thought, that game was something that was feasible for us because of the type of team we had. Sometimes you don't want to put your kids in that type of situation, but I thought we had a mature enough team at that point that we could take that type of game. So that was something that we kind of did, and the administration thought, it would be a good idea. We kind of put it together, but like you said, you want to think this thing through, and everybody that's in front of us in terms of the region, the 1 through the 7. Right now, the only one that played the Division I team was Virginia State. Everybody else played a full Division II schedule. So, like you said, it's hard not to look at that, and think, maybe if you do this or maybe if you do that, you kind of give yourself more of a chance. But, at the end of the day, you got to win. So you get against these tough games, you got to win. And I think, we've done more of that than not. But against some of the tougher teams, in the region, we got to make sure we put ourselves in a better position in those games.
Yeah, and this year the NCAA has kind of tweaked the formula as far as determining Division II matchups, especially come to playoffs. This year, 2019, for the first year, only the top 4 guaranteed home games. Mm-hmm. Numbers 2, 3, and 4 will play in the first round. 1 still gets the bye. But instead of 2, 7, 3, 6, and 4 versus 5, the bottom 3, numbers 5, 6, and 7, are now at-large teams and can be matched up regionally based upon travel and a few other factors to eliminate costs and hopefully increase attendance in the first round of the playoffs. Just kind of talk about that change right there, especially with you being president of the CIAA Coaches Association. Just kind of give me your opinion on that.
I believe it's something that's good, and you can kind of see the value in. the thing that they had in lieu of that was to go back down and take one more team out of the region and go back to 6 teams in the region. So nobody wanted that, but last year they spent, a huge amount, on flights and kind of putting teams on charter planes and kind of moving them around and things like that. So they want to kind of lessen that down so they can make the experience a little bit more, better for everybody kind of involved. So, that's the give you have to give on it. We want to make sure we keep it at where 7 or even more teams can probably get in the playoffs. So this formula, it's going to be the first year for it. So it'll be in the pilot year. I think it's, let's see how it goes. I think what people are maybe, afraid of is that, you won't necessarily see a team get a tougher matchup based off of your seed, and I understand that, but, it's a good enough give at that point for us to keep it at where we can get 7 teams out of each region,
right,
into the playoffs. And, and if this model works and they see the cost is way down and things like that, then, we might can go back into some talks where we had it to where we were looking at maybe making it an 8-team, regional playoff type of thing, So, anytime I can see more people getting into the playoffs, like some of the other levels and some of the, I think Division 3 lets a couple more in, and I think, FCS lets a couple more in, so we can get it up to that point like that. I think it'll be something that'll be good for Division 2 as a whole. So we'll see how it go this year, but for us, we just want to get an opportunity to dance. So,
right.
None of if we get in, it doesn't really matter where they send us to. We just want to get an opportunity to play.
And one thing that I like about it is one of the points of the NCAA was try to avoid rematches in the first round, because that mathematically and looking at some of the schedules, the winner of your game versus Virginia State could finish as high as 6. And if VUU does not move up in the schedule, that would mean a VUU State versus one of the Virginia schools in the first round again. Although CIAA fans would love to see it, the one thing that I would hate as a HBCU fan, that means one of our teams is automatically going home in the first round, and we want to see as many of our HBCU teams with the opportunity to stay around as long as they can. We want to see the 2 HBCU teams playing in the regional championship, not in the first round.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that was talked about and was looked at. But the way it's kind of shaping up, I think in some essence, it's going to be hard, to keep it from CIAA against CIAA or SAC against SAC or Gulf South against Gulf South. It's going to be kind of tough, for it not to happen because, it's kind of a cluster right there, so.
Exactly. It is. But right now it looks like the winner of your game will probably be going playing one of the schools in North Carolina, such as a Wingate or Lador-Rhine or one of those schools down in that particular area. Also, one other important factor, it's important that the winner of this game gets out of the number 7 slot, because the SIAC is not in yet. They do not have a team within the top 7. The division winner of the SIAC has to finish within the top 9 to guarantee their slot, and which means they would bump out the number 7 team. So in addition to getting the victory and hoping somebody ahead of you loses, you may need to get what's called style points. And I know you probably haven't looked at the SIAC so much, but just kind of talk about being in that position, especially the SIAC looking at we've got to get in, not only get in, but we've got to get a team at number 9 so that we can bump somebody out.
Yeah, it's called earn access, and it's kind of in place to make sure that you can get, as many different conferences represented as possible. So everybody kind of knows the rule kind of going in, so it's not like it's been something that's kind of been a spring of a surprise on anyone, in terms of the earn access rule. So like you said, that 7, unless you're a conference champion and you're kind of right there, it's kind of the hot seat, and you really won't find out until that, that selection Sunday in terms of how they're moving some things around, So, you want to cheer for certain people, you kind of want it, but it's so much of it. It's so many teams playing that it's kind of hard to keep up with, and kind of keep up with your own guys. That you can kind of have the formulas and everything to it, but it's a formula that I think no matter how much we think we have figured out, it's going to be some form of maybe the human element that might kick in or do something different to it. Last year, when we came with the first regional rankings, I think we were ranked 6th. In the first regional rankings. We won. The next week we dropped to 9. So it was, we dropped after a win. So
Yeah.
and I still don't have it figured out from that point. Won again and didn't move up again. So it was tough to kind of have a grasp on, how the formula would work. I kind of paid a little bit more attention to it in the off season in terms of trying to, build a good competitive schedule. Some things you want to look at and all of that. But I think, like the CIAA as a whole has done a good job of just being an extremely competitive league, so that when, we get teams to kind of get a chance to go to the playoffs, like a Bowie State did last year, you can go in there, you can win some games and be competitive, So, I think we get each other ready and we present each other with a good enough challenge that when we get to those type of games, no matter who we play, we can stand on our own. So, all the rules to it and all of the formulas and the figures to it, and I'm a researcher by nature, so I want to know it, but looking at it, I think so many different factors have kind of come into play with it that, at the end of the day, unless you're sitting at the table, on that last day, you're really not going to know all the factors that kind of play into what's going to happen. So, but you just want to make sure you put yourself in the best position possible. So when, they start calling names, your name can be called.
Right. Now we're going to assume that you guys get the victory for the sake of this interview. Now you have to sit at home during the CIAA game, championship game, and you have to at the scoreboard watch. And like you said, you dropped after victories. You number one, you're hoping that you don't drop after sitting at home a week during week 12 of the season. But let's talk about from a physical point of view. You have the unbuilt-in bye week now that you possibly will be able to take advantage of going into the playoffs. How do you think that potential bye week may help you out going into the first round, even though you're going to be on the road, you don't know who your first round opponent, but now your body's get a few extra days to recover, and obviously your coaching staff gets a few extra days to start preparing a game plan for initially 2 opponents and then down to that 1 opponent that you're going to be facing.
I mean, it's good. It's a good thing. That's the only benefit from it. Of course, nobody's going to tell you they don't want to be playing that week in terms of it being championship week. But in terms of what the benefit that we can get out of it as a team is something that's pretty daggone good. These guys have been kind of going strong since we started camping early August. And really hadn't had consecutive type of days off. With that, it'll kind of give us some chance to kind of tone things down a bit and kind of get these guys a chance to kind of heal up and to get ready for a game that's going to be tough no matter who we're going to play, in that sake of it being the playoffs that following week. But it'll be good for our kids. It'll be good for our kids, to kind of, sit back, make sure they can kind of do some things to catch up in the classrooms also. And also to do some things, on the football field wise that, can kind of get you back a little bit, to a more healthier state. So, it'll be something that can be good, and we'll make sure as coaches we use that week wisely in terms of having everything that we need for our guys. But, it's a chance to bring them back mentally and physically, just with you getting that extra time off and not necessarily having to prepare for a game that particular week. So, like we talked about before, bye weeks come in handy, and to get one right before, a win or go home type of situation is something that's pretty good.
Well, we're gonna hope that you win, Coach, and that opportunity will come against Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia. That game is going to kick off at 2 p.m. on this particular Saturday. Last words before we get you out of here, Coach.
Just, everybody. It's going to be a little chilly on Saturday, but, as many other, the Panther faithful that can make it out, or anybody that can watch and just pay attention to it, because, like I said, it's going to be something that's going to be good for HBCU football. I think it's, we start to talk about the national picture and putting more, teams in a position that can compete and do some things nationally. These are going to be two teams that are going to be around the cuff of that. So it's going to be something good, for HBCU as a whole. So all HBCU fans of, HBCU football out there, make sure you tune in.
All right, Coach. Well, Coach Dr. Alvin Parker, we thank you for your time here on the Black College Sports Network. And for my partner, Brian Fulford, our producer, Roy Evans, this is A.D. Drew. And make sure that you tune in on this particular Saturday, Virginia State, Virginia Union, for all the marbles for that last playoff spot. Thank you, Coach. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
All right.